What's going through your mind after Game 1 of the NBA Finals?
Yeah, to me, it felt like the Thunder tried to adjust to the Pacers before they even played them. You know, they came in, they started a different starting lineup than they've had all playoffs. And I know that they've started that lineup before in the regular season, but they've played the same starting lineup throughout the entire playoffs. And so it just felt like, to me, I think the intent was to like go for like the kill shot, like right off the bat, because I do think that's one of their best lineups. But to me, it felt like, okay, why are you adjusting so quickly when you have made it all the way to the NBA Finals? Was a question I had. And even throughout the first quarter, you saw minutes from AJ Mitchell, who was out for large stretches of this season. He's a rookie. He hurt his toe, missed the second half of the season, didn't play really until maybe just a couple minutes here and there at the end of the season, barely played in the playoffs. He's getting NBA Finals minutes. So it just felt like some of the things that they did got a little, they just were a little bit like, we're adjusting before we need to adjust kind of thing, where I was like, hey, why don't you just continue to play the way you've played up to this point? Bring in Caruso and Case and Wallace off the bench like you normally do. Catch that like normal rhythm that you've been having. Now, the double big lineup has not been their best lineup, certainly. But I just wonder about just rhythm when it comes to guys like Case and Wallace, who did not have a good game yesterday. And I just wonder about that. And then it really just came down to shot making, honestly. Like down the stretch, the Pacers went on a 12-2 run in the last 3 minutes of the game. And the Thunder were in the mud, and the Pacers were hitting everything that they put up there. And then there's also like a lot of Thunder fans are pointing to the lane violation that the officials called at the end of the game that gave the Pacers one more point.
Well, there were only 8 guys that were a part of the lane violation.
I know it was really strange.
It was a little wild.
You could call a lane violation probably 20 times in every single NBA game, and it was just kind of strange that was a moment. I'm not of the mind that like the officials were the ones who did anything in this game. I don't like that excuse.
Yeah.
I think there are about 100 other things before you actually get to that one. However, that was a little strange.
Okay, so let's – I think it is fascinating to see the Oklahoma City Thunder, a team that if you count how many playoff games they've won so far, count the 68 they won in the regular season, I do agree with you is why are you making any adjustment before the game even – just start against the Indiana Pacers, at least like you said, keep things just from a rhythm perspective the exact same. And then if you're 6 minutes into the first quarter and you don't like what you see, you change up whatever you want. If you want to start the second half, maybe a couple of tweaks here, like, all right, well, this too big lineup, we don't like what that does with our who guards Pascal Siakam. You can maybe kind of figure out and make the proper adjustments from there. That is odd that they did that. I do agree with you with that. With all that being said, I don't know if you felt this way by the time the game was over. It just felt like, well, yeah, OKC's going to win this game. They have maybe a 9 to 12 point lead. It felt like the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just happened. Like, I don't even know if I have a proper explanation for it. It could be it could be, and I'm just kind of off the top of my head here. It could be the Miles Turner step back leaning to your left off the glass as if he was Tim Duncan and taking a 15-footer. The only difference is Tim Duncan would do that on purpose. I don't think Miles Turner was doing that on purpose.
He did not.
From 23 feet out. It could be that. It could be, and this is kind of what the Pacers have done. It's the Mathurin, the Obi Toppin. It's like just this barrage of shots that it's like, yeah, that's not going to go in, and it goes in. And the next thing you know, it's like, is this a 1-point game? And it just again, it still Shea had an opportunity to take it up to 3. It didn't happen. I think it's just such this like shell shock of what the hell happened, and that's kind of been the Indiana Pacers all playoffs.
Yeah, there's no question. It felt like they were kind of like sucked into the Pacers vortex for the last 2 minutes and 52 seconds, where it was like, hey, this is great. You guys have had your time, but now like we're going to do this like Twilight Zone. Like everything is going our way. Nothing is going your way. And there's going to be no real explanation for it. I mean, Andrew Nembhard had that like cooking with the ball, dancing step back on Shea that went in that you were just like
who is this guy?
was that the shot of the game? And I know that the Halliburton shot was obviously the one to win it, but like that was
sure.
Like, is this guy going to get a max contract? Like, what's happening here with Andrew Nembhard? I mean, that was quite a shot. And then the fact that I'm still a little bit bewildered that the Thunder went as small as they did. Like, get one big out there. The Pacers could do nothing off of screens by Isaiah Hartenstein. And so it's just like, why don't you get a good screener out there? Because they literally had the smallest guy in their team setting a screen for Shea for that last shot. He set this double screen where he screened Nembhard. He screened Nesmith. Shea got to his spot. You know what both those guys did? They did not care that Cason Wallace was setting the screen. If you had a guy rolling to the hoop, if you had a guy that you cared about picking and popping, if it was Chet, popping out to three and Shea threw the ball to Chet. Now, maybe Shea just wasn't going to pass. Maybe that was just going to be the reality of that particular possession. That could be true. But I just wonder if that's Chet or even if they had J-Dub setting the screen in that spot or just somebody a little bit bigger. And I know they love to do guard-to-guard screening. That's been a thing of theirs for a long time. But I just wonder about that particular play. And also, you think about like the offensive rebounds. Like the Pacers are not a team that beats anybody on the offensive glass. Haven't done it, I think, since January. I think this is the first time since January that they have beat a team on the offensive glass. They beat them 13-10. They killed the Thunder on the boards, which has not been the Thunder this season. That was the Thunder last year for sure. But they beat them 56-39 on the boards. Like that's another way that they beat OKC. Is that they rebounded well, they scored when they needed to. Really, honestly, you look at this one like Obi Toppin kept them in this game too. Obi, every time the ball hit Obi's hands, he was making a shot. He's 5 of 8 from 3, and he just allowed them to hang around. When the game should have been 15 or 18, it was 12 or 9. The Thunder could never get like the separation because you look at like the turnover disparity, you look at the shot disparity. And you think, okay, the Thunder should be up by more. You get to halftime, they turned it over 19 times, and they're up 12. And there were people that I talked to that were like, uh-oh, this should be a 30-point game right now. This should not be a 12-point game. Pacers are hanging around. And I think the Pacers are better than the Thunder at one thing. And I think that it's clutch time execution. And they're probably better than everybody. We've seen it throughout the playoffs. They have had magical moments throughout the playoffs, and they just somehow work. And it's not that like I don't maybe execution is the wrong word. Maybe it's clutch time shot making is their best thing because a lot of it is not even execution. It's just like scramble. Oh my gosh, what's happening? There's chaos. The ball bounces 30 feet in the air and still goes in. I don't think that Tyrese necessarily had like a great footing on that shot last night. Like he was kind of leaning. It wasn't. It was contested. It wasn't like some like planned out execution. It was just when chaos ensues, like the Pacers are going to be there. And so that's certainly happened last night.
It's 1-0 Indiana right now. It kind of give me what you think happens in game 2 and not necessarily a prediction, but how you think the Thunder make this a series the rest of the way and kind of make their adjustments.
Yeah, I think they'll bounce back in a big way. When they've been beaten in kind of embarrassing fashion, it's safe to say this was pretty embarrassing for them on the biggest stage with everybody watching. They've bounced back in a big way. Like I said, they haven't lost consecutive games in the playoffs so far and only did that a couple times in the regular season. So I expect it's kind of in their DNA to bounce back. And so I see them bouncing back in a big way, taking this back to Indy 2-2. And like the most likely scenario in my head now is like they win it in 6, that they split in Indy, win game 5, go back and win game 6. And so I think like that to me makes the most sense. Now we need to see it. We need to see what adjustments they make. Do they go double big at all? Can they win the battle on the boards? Because I do think like if they can continue to play the way they have defensively, which they turned them over a ton, and then you can get, handle the boards a little bit better than you did. I think that they can pretty easily win, a lot of these games, but credit to Indy. credit to Rick Carlisle, credit to them as a team. Like they did something that I don't many people would have predicted in game one. And so the Pacers have turned this series on its head, and now it's the Thunder's job to turn it around. So I think they'll bounce back in a big way in game two, and then I think we're in for a series.
All right, thank you very much for watching the clip. Just want to give a shout out here to one of our partners, the Wallace Firm. They are official injury attorney of the Sliwa Show and Hoops Talk, the entire channel. If you are ever in a need, and I hope you're not, but some type of serious injury with yourself or a family member of yours, I would like to personally help you by introducing you to the best in the business, Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. Also got a URL out here that you can use as well. Just go to wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Thank you for their partnership, and thank you for being a part of the Sliwa Show.